Hey everyone, and welcome back to Note Lab Mode. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into the world of bootstrapped SaaS businesses,
Okay.
using Rob Walling's The SaaS Playbook as our guide. Before we get started, though, I want to quickly tell you about our sponsor for this deep dive.
Oh,
It's Cloutfit.ai. That's Cloutfit.ai. And they're doing some really cool stuff with AI in B2B fashion commerce,
interesting.
helping their clients boost user engagement and drive revenue. So if you're into the intersection of fashion and smart tech, definitely check them out. Okay, so imagine building a thriving software company, but without relying on that typical VC route.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly the path Walling illuminates in his book, drawing on his own experiences and insights from other founders who've successfully bootstrapped their way to success.
It's a path less traveled, but Walling makes a really compelling case for why it can be a more sustainable and ultimately more rewarding way to build a lasting company.
Right, it's like choosing the scenic route over the highway.
Yeah,
You might get there a little differently, but the journey itself can be more enjoyable and ultimately more fulfilling.
for sure.
So let's unpack Walling's playbook a little bit, starting with the foundation. Why SaaS? What makes this model so attractive, especially for bootstrappers?
Well, one of the biggest draws of SaaS is the recurring revenue model. This steady stream of income makes your business more resilient, especially compared to models that rely on one-off sales. Walling even points out that SaaS businesses tend to weather economic downturns better.
That makes sense. Having that predictable income coming in must be a huge relief, especially in the early days when things are so uncertain.
Yeah, you're not constantly scrambling for the next sale just to keep the lights on.
Exactly. Recurring revenue lets you focus on what matters, building a great product, creating long-term value for your customers.
Absolutely.
And what's even more interesting is, in the SaaS world, you're often solving problems
Yeah.
that people are already paying for.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you're not trying to convince people that they need something entirely new. You're offering a better, more efficient, or more cost-effective way to solve an existing pain point.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that can be a huge advantage when it comes to attracting customers and gaining traction.
Sure.
Now, that brings us to one of the core tenets of Walling's playbook, bootstrapping.
Yeah.
It's not just about frugality, though. It's about maintaining control over your company's destiny.
And Walling is quick to point out that bootstrapping doesn't mean you can never take outside funding.
Right.
It's about being intentional.
Yeah.
And strategic with your choices.
Prioritizing profitability over that pressure to achieve hypergrowth that often comes with those large VC investments.
He has this great anecdote about customer.io, this company that chose to raise a modest amount initially and focus on sustainable growth. They've become incredibly profitable, really defying that typical growth at all costs mentality we see so often.
It's a powerful example.
Yeah.
And it highlights how prioritizing profitability from the start can lead to long-term success and stability,
Yeah.
even in a fast-paced industry like SaaS. And that ties into another key point Walling emphasizes, deeply understanding your target market, and your ideal customer. You can have the most amazing product in the world, but if it's not solving the right problem for the right people,
Right.
it's not going to get you very far.
What I find fascinating is how strongly Walling advocates for constant customer conversations. It's surprising how many entrepreneurs skip this crucial step,
Yeah.
relying on assumptions or market research alone.
I can see how easy it would be to get caught up in building the product
Yeah.
and forget to actually talk to the people who will be using it.
And Walling emphasizes that these conversations shouldn't just be about gathering feature requests. It's about getting to the heart of the problem that your software solves, understanding the needs, frustrations,
Right.
and aspirations of your customers.
So it's not just about building what they ask for. It's about understanding the WHY behind their request. That deeper level of understanding is what makes your solution indispensable. It's what creates a product that customers not only use, but rave about and recommend to others.
He gives some really practical tips for having these effective customer conversations.
So like asking open-ended questions, avoiding leading the witness, really listening to what people have to say without trying to steer the conversation.
And he highlights the importance of talking to a variety of people, prospects, current customers, and even those who churned. Each group offers unique insights
Right.
that can help you refine your product and strategy.
You know what reminds me of that story? About Signwell's founder, Ruben Gamez. He used these types of customer conversations to uncover a key differentiator for his e-signature tool.
Oh, really?
It turned out that people hated how most tools send signature requests from an impersonal third-party email address. Signwell solved this by allowing requests to be sent directly from the user's email, a seemingly small change that had a huge impact.
It's a perfect example of how even in a crowded market, listening deeply to your customers can reveal those golden nuggets of insight that can set your product apart.
Which leads perfectly into the next challenge. What if your market already seems packed with competitors?
Yeah.
It can feel daunting, especially when you're just starting out. Like, how do you even begin to compete with the big players who already have established brands and tons of resources?
Well, Walling tackles this head on, and his approach is surprisingly encouraging.
Okay.
He leans into the David versus Goliath angle, arguing that smaller bootstrapped companies have certain advantages they can leverage.
So it's not about trying to outspend or outmuscle the giants. It's about being more agile, more focused, and more in tune with your customers' needs.
Exactly.
He talks about competing on price initially, offering a simpler sales model, and really targeting those underserved or frustrated users who are looking for a better solution.
I love that example he shares about Drip's marketing positioning, lightweight marketing automation. That doesn't suck.
It's bold, it's memorable, and it clearly targets those who are fed up with the complexity of the existing solutions.
Yeah.
Speaking of standing out, that brings us to another crucial concept, building an economic moat.
The moat. This is where we start thinking about long-term defensibility.
What protects your business, your market share, and your profits from being eroded by competitors over time?
It's like building a castle and making sure those walls are high and strong enough to withstand any siege.
So what are some of the ways that SaaS companies can build these moats?
Walling breaks down several types, each with their own strengths and challenges. One of the most powerful is the network effect, where the value of your product increases as more people use it. Think of platforms like Zapier. They've built massive moats by being integrated with thousands of other apps. Each new integration makes it harder for customers to switch.
It's like becoming the central hub that everyone relies on. The more connections you have, the more valuable you become.
Exactly.
And it's not just about integrations. It's also about building a strong brand, even within a niche market. Think about companies like Basecamp or Help Scout. They've cultivated strong brands and loyal communities by consistently delivering value. And Wally makes an important point about what doesn't constitute a moat. He debunks the myth that having unique features alone is enough.
Right, because features can be copied, especially in the software world. It's about the combination of factors that creates a lasting competitive advantage.
The features, the brand,
Yeah.
the community, the network effects, it all works together.
Yeah.
Which brings us to one of the most critical and often misunderstood aspects of SaaS pricing.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because Walling argues that most SaaS founders actually undercharge.
And this isn't just about leaving money on the table. It's about limiting your options.
It's a common mistake, often driven by fear or a lack of understanding of how pricing impacts everything.
He explains how your price point directly impacts your marketing options. A higher price tag unlocks more sophisticated strategies.
Because you have more resources to invest in reaching the right customers.
And it allows you to invest in building a stronger brand, offering higher levels of support.
It's about creating a premium experience that justifies the higher price.
He gives some really practical advice on how to structure your pricing. He's a big proponent of tying your pricing to value metrics.
So as your customers grow, so does your revenue.
It's a win-win scenario.
And he encourages founders to not be afraid to raise prices periodically, but to do it strategically.
He does.
He shares several tactics, like grandfathering existing customers or adjusting value metrics to minimize churn and ensure a smooth transition.
I was blown away by the example he gives about Gymdesk's founder. He raised prices by over 50%.
Wow.
And saw minimal churn. Then he used that additional revenue to fuel even more growth.
That's amazing.
It's proof that charging more can actually accelerate your expansion.
It seems so counterintuitive. At first, it's a great example of how pricing is a lever that can be used to drive not just revenue, but growth and market dominance as well.
Now, even with the best product and pricing strategy in the world, there's still one crucial piece of the puzzle, getting those customers in the door.
Right.
And Walling is quick to bully that myth of build it and they will come.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, especially those of us who are passionate about building great products, can fall into that trap. It's easy to think that if you build something truly amazing, customers will just magically appear.
Walling emphasizes that attracting customers takes work, it takes strategy, and takes a deep understanding of how to reach your target audience in a way that resonates with them.
He introduces the concept of marketing funnels and how they work in the SaaS world, highlighting the difference between high-touch and low-touch approaches.
So it's about understanding the different stages of the customer journey and tailoring your marketing efforts accordingly.
Exactly.
And he reveals a particularly interesting strategy. He calls it the dual funnel cheat code.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this cheat code.
It involves targeting both a wide audience at a lower price point and a more targeted premium audience at a higher price point. It's a way to maximize your reach and revenue potential, attracting both high-volume, low-touch customers and higher-value, higher-touch clients. So it's like having two engines, powering your growth, each attracting a different type of customer.
Precisely.
And he shares specific examples of how companies have successfully implemented this dual funnel strategy, showing that it's not just a theoretical concept, but a proven approach.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the internal workings of your SaaS business.
Building your team.
As you start to grow, having the right people in the right roles becomes absolutely essential.
And I think this can be a really challenging area for a lot of founders, especially those who were used to doing everything themselves in the early days. It's tough to let go of control and trust other people to execute your vision.
What kind of advice does Walling offer in this area?
He offers some really insightful and practical guidance, especially for first-time founders or those who might be new to the hiring process. And one of his key points is the importance of hiring for roles, not just tasks. So it helps you avoid falling into that jack-of-all-trades trap where everyone is stretched too thin and nobody's truly excelling. So it's about building a team of specialists who can each own their respective domains and contribute their unique skills and perspectives to the overall success of the company.
And he provides a helpful breakdown of the typical structure of SaaS departments and the common first hires in each area, giving you a roadmap for building a well-rounded team.
What about for technical founders? I imagine it could be particularly challenging for them to delegate development work and focus on the business side of things.
Walling acknowledges that, and he offers specific guidance for technical founders, encouraging them to learn to delegate, to trust their team, and to focus on building their business skills, which are just as crucial as their technical abilities.
Makes sense. You can't code your way to $1 million business. You need to be able to market, sell, manage, and lead effectively.
Right. And it's not just about hiring the right people. It's also about keeping them engaged and motivated.
Walling makes a really important point. Hiring is challenging, but retaining top talent is even more critical. It's about building a company culture that attracts and keeps great people.
Yeah.
A culture where people feel valued, respected, and empowered to do their best work.
It's about creating an environment where people want to show up every day
and contribute their talents to something bigger than themselves.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about measuring your progress. How do you know if you're on the right track, and what metrics should you be paying attention to?
Walling encourages founders to go beyond vanity metrics when it comes to tracking their progress. While MRR and growth rate are important, they don't tell the whole story.
He introduces what he calls the 3 high, 3 low framework, which focuses on optimizing key metrics for sustainable growth.
Okay, this sounds intriguing. What are the 3 highs and 3 lows?
The 3 lows are things you want to minimize: customer acquisition cost, CS, churn, and sales and marketing effort. These are the areas where efficiency is key.
The 3 highs are what you want to maximize: average contract value, ACV, expansion revenue, and referrals.
So it's not just about growing your customer base, it's about making sure you're acquiring those customers efficiently, keeping them happy, and maximizing their lifetime value.
Yeah, exactly.
And he highlights the incredible power of negative churn, which is when expansion revenue actually outpaces any lost revenue from churned customers.
It's like having a built-in growth engine powered by your existing customer base.
That's a mind-bending concept.
Right.
It almost sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
Like you're actually growing, even if you lose some customers along the way.
It's a sign of a truly healthy and thriving SaaS business, where you're not just acquiring customers, but building lasting relationships and delivering exceptional value.
Walling really seems to understand the psychological aspects of building a business.
He dives into some key frameworks that can help you navigate the mental and emotional challenges of entrepreneurship.
Building a business is a roller coaster, And it's easy to get overwhelmed or discouraged if you don't have the right mental tools to cope.
So what are some of the mindset shifts he suggests? What can help founders stay grounded and focused?
He talks about the importance of distinguishing between efficiency and effectiveness, emphasizing the need to do the right things, not just do things right.
I love that. It's about focusing your energy on what truly moves the needle.
It's so easy to get caught up in being busy, checking things off your to-do list. But if those things aren't actually moving you closer to your goals, they're just distractions.
Exactly.
He also encourages founders to reframe their perspective on obstacles instead of seeing them as insurmountable roadblocks. He frames them as speed bumps, challenges to overcome, not reasons to give up.
It's a subtle but powerful shift in mindset.
It's about approaching challenges with a problem-solving mentality, not a sense of defeat. And he's a big advocate for community and mentorship, especially for solo founders who can easily feel isolated.
He's a huge advocate for masterminds, where small groups of founders can support each other.
It's about sharing experiences, learning from each other's mistakes, and having that network of people who truly understand the ups and downs of building a business.
It's like having your own personal board of advisors, people you can trust to give you honest feedback.
He also talks about finding the right mentors, people who have already achieved what you're striving for.
And he even gets personal, sharing his own struggles with burnout and the importance of taking care of yourself.
That's so refreshing to hear. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle culture and think you have to sacrifice everything to be successful. But Walling reminds us that building a sustainable business also means building a sustainable life.
Absolutely. He credits Founder Retreats with helping him to regain focus and avoid burnout. And he even mentions his wife, Sherry, who has a PhD in psychology, has written a guide on Founder Retreats.
I bet that guide is incredibly valuable. It's great that she's using her expertise to support founders.
It really highlights the fact that taking care of your mental and emotional well-being is just as important as focusing on the business side of things.
Now, aside from the tactical advice and mindset frameworks, Walling also reveals what he calls SaaS cheat codes throughout the book.
Okay.
These are the high-impact tactics that can really make a difference.
Tell me about these cheat codes.
One of the most intriguing is the concept of expansion revenue. This is about generating more revenue from your existing customers, not just relying on constantly acquiring new ones.
Okay.
It's about creating opportunities for your customers to grow with you.
So it's not just about getting them in the door, it's about deepening the relationship and creating more value for them over time.
Walling explains how this can be achieved through various tactics, like upselling to higher pricing tiers or offering additional features or services that cater to their evolving needs.
And when done effectively, expansion revenue can lead to what he calls negative churn.
Oh yeah, we talked about that earlier. That's when your expansion revenue actually exceeds any lost revenue from churned customers, right?
Exactly.
It's the holy grail of SaaS, where your business is growing, even if you lose some customers along the way.
It's a sign of a truly thriving SaaS business, where your customers are not just staying, but growing with you.
It's like having a built-in growth engine powered by your existing customer base. Pretty amazing. What else?
He also talks about the power of virality, where each new customer has the potential to bring in more customers.
I could see how that would be incredibly powerful, especially in the early days, when you're still trying to build awareness and momentum.
He breaks down the difference between strong and weak viral loops, highlighting how the strength of the loop often depends on how deeply integrated sharing is to the core functionality of the product.
For example, a social media platform like Facebook has a very strong viral loop because inviting friends is fundamental to the experience.
Right. It's baked into the DNA of the product itself.
You can't really use Facebook effectively without inviting other people to join.
Exactly. Whereas a tool like MailChimp, which adds branding to emails sent from their free plan, has a weaker viral loop because the visibility is more passive and less tied to the core value proposition.
It's about being strategic and intentional with how you design your product and your marketing to maximize the potential for virality. What about that dual funnel strategy we were talking about earlier?
It is. Remember, this involves targeting both a broad audience at a lower price point and a more targeted premium audience at a higher price.
Yeah.
It's a way to maximize your reach and revenue potential, attracting both high-volume, low-touch customers and higher-value, higher-touch clients.
So what are your thoughts on these cheat codes? Any of them particularly resonating with you?
Honestly, what resonates most with me is Walling's emphasis on building a business that aligns with your values and goals.
Absolutely.
Bootstrapping isn't just about being scrappy or avoiding VC. It's about crafting something sustainable and rewarding on your own terms.
And speaking of freedom, Walling doesn't shy away from the question of funding. He acknowledges that it can be a powerful tool when used strategically.
Yeah.
But emphasizes that it's not always necessary.
Right.
Especially in the SaaS world, where you can often achieve profitability much earlier.
He even points out that sometimes an influx of cash can create its own set of problems.
Oh, yeah.
It can lead to a pressure to grow at all costs.
Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. You might think having a ton of money would solve all your problems, but it can actually create new ones.
Exactly.
If you're not prepared for them.
Walling talks about how some founders get caught in the cycle of raising money and chasing growth metrics, which can lead to burnout and even force the company to grow beyond its natural limits.
He advocates for a more balanced approach, what he calls mostly bootstrapped, where you might raise smaller amounts of funding to accelerate specific initiatives, while still maintaining control and prioritizing profitability.
So it's not about saying no to funding entirely.
Right.
It's about being smart and strategic, about how you use it.
He shares some great examples of companies that have successfully used funding to achieve their goals.
Oh, really?
Like Castos, who used funding to hire senior talent early on, allowing them to move much faster. Or Signwell, who invested in compliance certifications. That enabled them to land bigger deals sooner.
It really highlights that funding can be a strategic tool, not just a lifeline. It's about choosing the right type of funding at the right time to fuel your growth.
But even with the right funding and a stellar team, building a successful SaaS business requires a certain mindset. Walling dives into this aspect, offering some really practical frameworks to help founders navigate those mental and emotional challenges that are just part and parcel of the entrepreneurial journey.
One of the most powerful concepts he introduces is the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. It's not just about doing things right. It's about doing the right things.
I love that.
Focusing your energy on what truly moves the needle, not getting bogged down in busy work or tasks that don't really contribute to your overall goals.
It's so easy to get caught up in being busy and checking things off your to-do list. But if those things aren't actually moving you closer to your goals, they're just distractions.
Exactly.
He also encourages founders to shift their perspective on obstacles. Instead of seeing them as insurmountable roadblocks, he frames them as speed bumps, challenges to overcome, not reasons to give up.
It's about having that resilience, that grit to keep pushing forward even when things get tough.
Absolutely.
And he emphasizes the importance of community and mentorship, especially for solo founders who can easily feel isolated.
He's a huge advocate for masterminds, where small groups of founders can support and hold each other accountable.
It's about sharing experiences, learning from each other's mistakes, and having that network of people who truly understand the ups and downs of building a business. It's like having your own personal board of advisors, people you can trust to give you honest feedback.
And support you when you need it most.
Exactly.
He also talks about finding the right mentors, people who have already achieved what you're striving for, and can offer guidance from their own experience.
And he even gets personal, sharing his own struggles with burnout.
Wow.
And the importance of taking care of yourself.
It's so refreshing to hear.
Both physically and mentally.
It's easy to get caught up in the hustle culture and think you have to sacrifice everything to be successful. But Walling reminds us that building a sustainable business also means building a sustainable life.
Absolutely.
He credits founder retreats with helping him to regain focus and avoid burnout. And he even mentions that his wife, Sherry, who has a PhD in psychology, has written a guide on founder retreats. Oh, wow. I bet that guide is incredibly valuable. It's great that she's using her expertise to support founders.
It really highlights the fact that taking care of your mental and emotional well-being is just as important as focusing on the business side of things. Now, aside from the tactical advice and mindset frameworks, Walling also reveals what he calls SaaS cheat codes throughout the book. These are the high-impact tactics that can really make a difference.
Tell me about these cheat codes.
One of the most intriguing is the concept of expansion revenue. This is about generating more revenue from your existing customers, not just relying on constantly acquiring new ones. It's about creating opportunities for your customers to grow with you.
So it's not just about getting them in the door. It's about deepening the relationship and creating more value for them over time.
Exactly.
Walling explains how this can be achieved through various tactics, like upselling to higher pricing tiers, or offering additional features or services that cater to their evolving needs.
And when done effectively, expansion revenue can lead to what he calls negative churn.
Oh yeah, we talked about that earlier. That's when your expansion revenue actually exceeds any lost revenue from churned customers, right? It's
Exactly.
a holy grail of SaaS, where your business is growing, even if you lose some customers along the way.
It's a sign of a truly thriving SaaS business, where your customers are not just staying, but growing with you.
It's like having a built-in growth engine powered by your existing customer base.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. What else?
He also talks about the power of virality, where each new customer has the potential to bring in more customers.
I can see how that would be incredibly powerful, especially in the early days when you're still trying to build awareness and momentum.
He breaks down the difference between strong and weak viral loops, highlighting how the strength of the loop often depends on how deeply integrated sharing or inviting others is to the core functionality of the product.
Okay.
For example, a social media platform like Facebook has a very strong viral loop because inviting friends is fundamental to the experience.
Right, it's baked into the DNA of the product itself. You can't really use Facebook effectively without inviting other people to join.
Exactly, whereas a tool like MailChimp, which adds branding to emails sent from their free plan, has a weaker viral loop because the visibility is more passive and less tied to the core value proposition.
So it's about being strategic and intentional with how you design your product and your marketing to maximize the potential for virality. What about that dual funnel strategy we were talking about earlier? Is that one of the cheat codes?
It is, remember, this involves targeting both a broad audience at a lower price point and a more targeted premium audience at a higher price. It's a clever way to maximize your reach and revenue potential,
Right.
attracting both high-volume, low-touch customers and higher-value, higher-touch clients. And he provides real-world examples of how companies have successfully implemented this strategy, proving its effectiveness in the real world.
So you're essentially casting a wider net to capture a broader range of customers while also having more focused approach.
For attracting those high-value clients.
And what are your thoughts on these cheat codes?
Yeah.
Any of them particularly resonating with you? Honestly, they all sound incredibly powerful, but I can also see how they require a deep understanding of your product, your market, and your customers to really implement them effectively.
That's the key takeaway, I think. It's not about blindly applying tactics.
Right.
It's about understanding the underlying principles and tailoring them to fit your specific situation.
And that's where Walling's book really shines.
Yeah.
It's not just a list of tips and tricks. It's a framework for thinking about how to build a SaaS business.
Yeah, from the ground up.
It's like he's giving you the blueprint, but you still have the freedom to design the building to your own specifications.
Exactly. He provides a roadmap for navigating that entire journey, from finding your ideal market to building your team to scaling your growth.
And he does it all from the perspective of a bootstrapper, someone who understands the unique challenges and rewards of building a sustainable business without relying on large sums of external capital.
It's a refreshing perspective in a world that often glorifies the raise millions, grow at all costs mentality.
Walling shows that there's another path, a path that prioritizes profitability control and building a company that aligns with your values.
It's a path that might take longer, but ultimately leads to a more sustainable and fulfilling outcome.
And that's the beauty of the SaaS Playbook. It empowers you to make informed decisions, to chart your own course, and to build a company that you're proud of.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the SaaS Playbook, the key question for you is, what's your unique combination of moats, marketing strategies, and mindset shifts that will propel your SaaS to success?
What are you most excited to experiment with or implement based on what we've discussed today? Take some time to reflect on these ideas. Explore Walling's book for deeper insights. And remember, building a multi-million-dollar SaaS is achievable without the VC roller coaster. It's about making smart decisions, staying focused on your goals, and having the courage to build something great on your own terms.
And speaking of building something great, a big thanks again to our sponsor, Cloutfit.ai, for supporting this episode of Note Lab Mode. They're using AI to revolutionize B2B fashion commerce, helping their clients boost user engagement and drive revenue. If you're intrigued by the intersection of fashion and smart tech, be sure to check them out at cloutfit.ai. That's cloutfit.ai.
It's amazing to see how AI is making waves in so many different industries, even those that might seem unexpected.
Right. It just goes to show that the possibilities are endless when you combine innovative technology
with a deep understanding of customer needs
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the SaaS Playbook, be sure to share it with someone who'd love to master the SaaS game. And don't forget to subscribe to NoteLab Mode for more insightful deep dives into the world of business tech and beyond.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.